My name has vanished into history's mists over the course of time, but I'm here to revive my tale. I was Judah's king, and here is my story. The story of a king who faced daunting challenges, made difficult choices, and witnessed miracles that would change the destiny of my people and my beloved Jerusalem.
Welcome back to the Word of Life, dear viewers. Today, let's take a unique look at Hezekiah's life and journey through his perspective. By appreciating Hezekiah's journey and life experience through his perspective and viewpoint, we discover key principles of faith, justice, and righteousness.
I rose to the throne with the burden of inheriting a corrupt and idolatrous nation. I felt the burden of responsibility fall on my shoulders, but I was determined to start a revival.
Hezekiah is crowned in the lavish courtyard of the imperial palace in Jerusalem. A joyful and regal ambiance is created in the courtyard by the use of vibrant banners, enticing flowers, and sparkling candles. The priests and prophets, along with the aristocracy and high-ranking officials of the kingdom, have gathered to witness this momentous event. He enters the room wearing a magnificent regal robe. His elaborately embroidered red and gold robe, which represents his authority and ancestry, is worn by him. A magnificent crown, symbolizing his ascension to the throne, is perched on his head. His young face displays a feeling of humility and resolve as he gets ready to assume the obligations of the kingdom. The high priest performs a number of traditional ceremonies with a tone of solemnity. He uses holy oil to anoint Hezekiah, symbolizing the divine endorsement of his suzerainty. Then he displays the Torah scroll, which emphasizes the king's duty to protect Judah's rules and customs, as well as the royal scepter, representing the monarchy's might. He is formally recognized as the legitimate king of Judah and the defender of the faith by a herald who stands up and issues the official declaration. In response, the audience applauds, and the courtyard is filled with the sound of their voices. Hezekiah swore a solemn promise to protect the kingdom from enemies, inside and without its boundaries, and lead his people with unwavering confidence in the one true God. 2 Chronicles 31 verses 20-21 says, "This is what Hezekiah did throughout Judah, doing what was good and right and faithful before the Lord his God. In everything that he undertook in the service of God's temple and in obedience to the law and the commands, he sought his God and worked wholeheartedly, and so he prospered." The new king's rule is blessed and prayed for by the priests and prophets.
The crowd bows their heads in reverence as they seek divine favor for my rule. After the official ceremony, a lavish feast is served at the palace. The festival is open to the nobles, authorities, and regular people. The finest foods are laid out on the tables, while musicians fill the room with uplifting music. My coronation marked the start of a fresh chapter in Judah's history. It set the stage for the changes and difficulties I would experience during my reign by signifying a return to the principles of faith, justice, and righteousness. My reforms were not always popular, but I knew they were necessary. I cleansed the temple, tore down the high places, and brought the people back to the path of righteousness. I began my reforms by ordering the removal of idols, pagan shrines, and high places throughout Judah. These had become centers of idolatrous worship, diverting the people's faith from the God of Israel. One of my most significant reforms was the restoration of the temple in Jerusalem. The temple had fallen into disrepair, and I allocated resources and organized labor to renovate and purify it. In order to ensure that the temple rituals and offerings were carried out in accordance with the law of Moses, I also restored the priestly order and the Levitical system and appointed priests and Levites to their proper places and responsibilities. I brought back the important religious celebration of Passover, which had been abandoned for a long time. I invited individuals to participate in this important religious ceremony from around Judah and Israel. The bronze serpent's destruction was one of my greatest symbolic gestures. This serpent, which was made during the time of Moses, had turned into an idol. I understood that getting rid of it would allow for proper worship of God. I urged people to stop engaging in sinful behavior and return to worshiping the true God throughout my reign. I urged them to abide by Moses' law and carry out his instructions. I also sought spiritual instruction from the prophets, especially the well-known prophet Isaiah. I sought them for advice on how to redirect Judah to a faithful and righteous path. Lastly, I was steadfast in demolishing Baal altars and statues that had multiplied under former rulers and abolishing Baal worship from the nation.
The goal of Hezekiah's reforms was to rid Judah of the idolatry and moral decline that had afflicted the country. These activities have political and social repercussions in addition to their theological ones. They contributed to the kingdom's unity, boosted its moral fiber, and in Hezekiah's opinion, earned God's favor and protection. During Hezekiah's rule, Judah saw a spiritual upsurge and a return to the worship of the one true God. 2 Kings 18 verses 13 to 17 reads, "In the 14th year of King Hezekiah's reign, Sennacherib king of Assyria attacked all the fortified cities of Judah and captured them. So Hezekiah king of Judah sent this message to the king of Assyria at Lachish: I have done wrong, withdraw from me, and I will pay whatever you demand of me. The king of Assyria exacted from Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. So Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the temple of the Lord and in the treasuries of the royal palace. At this time, Hezekiah, king of Judah, stripped off the gold, with which he had covered the doors and doorposts of the temple of the Lord, and gave it to the king of Assyria.
The Assyrian Empire, led by King Sennacherib, had grown into a powerful force in the ancient Near East by the time of my rule in the late 8th century BC. They threatened to enlarge their empire after having already captured a number of neighboring countries. Sennacherib set his sights on Judah, planning an invasion to subdue the kingdom. In 701 BC, the Assyrian army marched into Judah, laying siege to several fortified cities and aiming to capture Jerusalem, the capital. As soon as I realized how serious the situation was, I acted defensively. I improved Jerusalem's defenses by mending the city walls, building a tunnel to safeguard the water supply, and stockpiling supplies in case of siege. In an effort to prevent war, I first tried to appease Sennacherib diplomatically by promising tribute money. The Assyrian monarch, however, continued his campaign unfazed by this. During this moment, I looked to the prophet Isaiah for direction. He informed me and the people that God would step in and defend Jerusalem. A heavenly intervention resulted in a much welcome turn of events as the Assyrians surrounded Jerusalem. An angel of the Lord killed 185,000 Assyrian warriors in a single night, forcing the Assyrian army to flee in defeat. The miraculous deliverance prevented the conquest of Jerusalem. Judah was greatly affected by the Assyrian menace and the miraculous deliverance that followed. My trust in God was confirmed, and the people of Judah saw the effectiveness of divine intervention. Their dedication to worshiping the only true God was strengthened by this experience.
Hezekiah's reign is notable for the Assyrian threat and following miracle, which emphasizes the concept of divine protection and the value of persistent faith. This incident also demonstrates Hezekiah's ability to lead and his resolve to defend his country from outside dangers. It stands out as a significant chapter in both the overarching biblical story and Judah's history. Isaiah 38 verses 9 to 20 reads, "This is the writing of Hezekiah king of Judah when he had been sick and had recovered from his sickness. I said, in the prime of my life, must I go through the gates of death and be robbed of the rest of my years? I said, I will not again see the Lord in the land of the living. No longer will I look on mankind or be with those who now dwell in this world. Like a shepherd's tent, my house has been pulled down and taken from me. Like a weaver, I have rolled up my life, and he has cut me off from the loom. Day and night, you made an end of me. I waited patiently till dawn, but like a lion, he broke all my bones. Day and night, you made an end of me."
I became seriously ill, and Isaiah, son of Amoz, came to see me. The condition was critical and was deemed potentially fatal. I turned to God in prayer, acknowledging his devotion and righteous life. I wept bitterly and asked for God's mercy and healing.
2 Kings 20 verses 5 and 6 tells us, Go back and tell Hezekiah, the ruler of my people, this is what the Lord, the God of your father David, says. I have heard your prayer and seen your tears. I will heal you. On the third day from now, you will go up to the temple of the Lord. I will add 15 years to your life.
I prayed for confirmation from God that I had been healed, and I asked that the shadow on the sundial go backward to show that God had intervened miraculously. My personal trials were not spared. When I was struck with a terminal illness, I sought the Lord's mercy, and He granted me a second chance at life.
Hezekiah's illness, healing, and the miraculous sign of the sundial are important events in the biblical narrative, highlighting the power of prayer, God's mercy, and the profound impact of divine intervention on the life and reign of Hezekiah.
My reign was filled with obstacles, miracles, and faith. Tonight, when I gaze upon Jerusalem, I am overwhelmed with gratitude for the occasions that helped to define my rule. My life may only represent a small portion of history's overall story, but it serves as a monument to the strength obtained by service to God and the influence one individual can have on their community and country.
As we reflect on the life of Hezekiah, his faith, his leadership, and his miraculous experiences, let his story serve as a source of encouragement and inspiration. Hezekiah faced formidable challenges, from the Assyrian threat to a life-threatening illness, but through unwavering faith, prayer, and trust in the one true God, he overcame them all. In our own lives, we may encounter trials and tribulations that seem insurmountable. We may face threats, both internal and external, that test our resolve. But let Hezekiah's example remind us that with faith, prayer, and reliance on a higher power, we can find the strength to overcome adversity. Just as God granted Hezekiah healing and protection, may we also find solace in our faith during difficult times. Keep in mind that Hezekiah's story is more than just a historical account. It also serves as a monument to the perseverance of faith and the limitless power of divine intervention. May we be inspired to imitate Hezekiah's steadfast faith in God as we confront our own struggles, knowing that with faith, we too can find the bravery and resiliency to conquer life's problems. If you enjoyed this video and found it inspiring, please subscribe, like, and click the bell to receive updates on new inspirational video. Thank you for spending your time with us today. Until next time, strive to be the Hezekiah of your community. In this generation, full of uncertainties and unrighteousness, may God richly bless you as you seek His guidance in your life each day.